Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Eddie Garcia, from sunny Culver City, California. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, where today I'll be talking all basketball, NBA basketball, and of course, the one, the only, March Madness. It's that time of the year. March Madness is here, and we missed it last year. But first, let's get to the NBA. We're going to talk a little NBA, the recap of the regular season, the first half of the regular season. Then we'll get into some NBA All-Star Weekend and what I think of the second part of the NBA schedule. And finally, I'm going to give you guys my predictions on all awards. But first, let's get to this NBA first half. So, it's been an eventful first half of the season, ladies and gentlemen. We've had drama. It's been crazy. It's been fun. It's been different. It's been unique. We've never seen anything like this in the history of sports, you can say. We've never really had a season like this where we really don't know if your team's going to show up with all their guys, if they're going to have a next game. You know, it's one of those things that whoever manages the best situation is going to have the best situation, which is a bummer. But, you know, at the end of the day, these guys want to get paid, so you got to show up, right? You kind of have to do the guidelines that the NBA has, and they're kind of giving you every reason to be good, if that makes sense, to not go out, to not expose yourself, if that's what it takes. I think a lot of the teams have done a great job. We haven't seen the cases have been down in the NBA. I think 1 week they had 0, which was awesome, and then the other weeks it's been 1, 2. I think last week it was 4. So the numbers have been down. But let's dive into this first half. And if you're a Houston Rockets fan, how do you feel about James Harden joining that super team, and why do you trade him there? You know, it's crazy. James Harden gets his way. The Lakers, can they repeat? Can the Clippers get over that hump, that finishing hump? Can they finish, right? That's the big question for the Clippers this year. They had everything going, and then we all know the story, 3-1. The young guys, LaMelo Ball is making an impact on the Hornets, and Michael Jordan said he exceeded expectations. And did he light a fire under Lonzo Ball? I don't know. We'll talk about that a little bit later on the show. The MVP race is heating up. Joel Embiid playing at an all-star caliber. It's great. The Knicks are back. How awesome! The Knicks being back is probably my highlight of the first half of the season. When New York is good, the NBA is good. We as fans of the games, as fanatics, as NBA, the NBA is just better when the Knicks are good. I don't have anything else to say but that. You know, New York is rejoicing. There's people yelling on the streets. Could you only imagine if Madison Square Garden was open, how this would be? It would be the hottest ticket in America right now. Julius Randle's putting on a show. Derrick Rose is putting on a show. They love it. And then they have a bunch of young cats that run around and play defense. Tom Thibodeau coaches his butt off. Oh my God, you love to see that. New York basketball. Let's make some noise. But let's run through the standings right now. And I'm going to start off on the Eastern Conference, where the Sixers ended up on top. And the Sixers, to me, are an interesting team. Obviously, new coach, new system, new culture. And that's kind of what they needed. In the last couple of years, we always said, what is the Sixers' identity? They didn't have one. With Doc Rivers, they do. They're tough. You're going to have to play defense. They're gritty. And I want to say they've accepted their rules. In past years, we've seen that Joel and Embiid and Ben Simmons are kind of, it's my team, no, it's your team. Okay, it's my team, no, it's your team. This year, we kind of see it's Joel's team, and we've seen that he's flourished in that role. He wants it to be his team. Trust the process. It's his team, and they're on top right now with a slight margin over the Nets. The Nets are a scary basketball team, I tell you. They are also in very much a honeymoon stage because for Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden to be on their best behavior in the nicest way possible, they're drama queens. They are. There's no way around that. They are. It's what they are. And well, when this comes back, it's crazy to say, but every team goes through a rough patch in the season. There has never been a team that, just doesn't. And when adversity hits, that's kind of where I want to see how the Nets react to that. That's my biggest thing with the Nets. How are they going to do that? Because a lot of these guys like James Harden and Kyrie, I don't worry too much about KD. He's kind of, he's won his championship. He's kind of his own. He's the second best player in the league right now, I personally think. Obviously not this year, but just talent-wise. Those two guys, they crumble. They like to point fingers, and they don't like to take accountability. We saw with Kyrie, he ran, and James, he ran too. So it's going to be interesting to see. Then we have the Bucks. The Bucks are an interesting team to me. Drew Holiday, I thought, would make them better, but I don't know. I mean, Giannis came out the other day and said, I don't worry about my seed. I'm worried about the postseason, and that's good. If you're a Bucks fan, you love to hear that stuff, but I don't think people are scared of Giannis at this point. It's crazy. He's won back-to-back MVPs. But no one's really scared of Giannis in the postseason because you foul him, you get him the free throw line, you slow him down, you make him shoot jump shots. People aren't really, I don't think people are really. I mean, he's the best. I mean, he was MVP, so I mean, he's good. And then we have the Celtics. The Celtics, to me, how do I put this? I think they're too small. I don't think they're good enough. And I think that Kemba is kind of deteriorating and he's slowing down, and I just don't know how good Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown could go together, if that makes sense. I think maybe one of them has to take that leap to be, hey, this is my team, this is my thing, and I'm the superstar on this team. But I think Tatum's a little young to do that, but he's the guy that I see with the higher ceiling that could do that eventually. Marcus Smart has been banged up for them. Tristan Thompson is just not big enough. And then they have Tice, who's also not big enough. And I think you've got to have a guy down there that likes to bang a little bit. And I don't think they have that. And they basically have to pitch a perfect game, it seems like. And then we have the Knicks. The Knicks are fun. They're running. They're gunning. Julius Randle's shooting threes. The thing that I liked about this is Tom Thibodeau. He got hired, and if you know Tom Thibodeau, he likes to coach. He's one of those guys that when you have an off day, you're going to have practice, and you're going to practice hard. He likes to run his guys. No, you're going to practice, you're going to play hard, you're going to buy in, and if you don't buy in, you don't play. It's, Van Gundy's like that. Thibodeau's like that. You don't play hard, you don't play. And it's like I talked about earlier in the show, it's so good for basketball that the Knicks are back. It's so good for the city, it's so good for the NBA. I just love that. Then we have the Hornets. The Hornets are an interesting team. LaMelo exceeded expectations. He's a hell of a ball player. I think he's what we all thought Lonzo would be. Even though LeVar said he is the better brother of the two, but I guess we'll see. Only time will tell. I think they're a little young. They're maybe like a year or two too fast. Gordon Hayward is hurt, and I think he'll help them. So I think they're a fun team. Terry Rozier's having a good year, and they also have the best announcer in sports. If you have a chance to watch a Hornets game, no, the guy's on fire, and I love it. The Raptors are interesting because are they going to be sellers? Is Kyle Lowry going to be traded? Siakam, we thought Siakam was going to, take that leap and Kawhi left, and he hasn't quite done that yet. And does he still have it in him? I think so, but I think they're going to fall a little short. I think they might be traders. The Bulls are there, and then the Pacers and the Hawks. And then we have that, play in this year, which is going to be fun. And the teams looking on the outside in, we have the Wizards, the Hawks, and the Cavs. I think the Cavs are, they're only 2 games out, but they might be traders. I think Drummond hasn't played, and I think hopefully we're going to see what happens with him. He might be on the trade block, like with Blake Griffin. They just bought him out today. Looks like the Nets might pick up Blake Griffin. But Drummond is an interesting piece. He could really help the Lakers. He could actually help any team that he goes to. He's a big body, rebounds, guards, clogs the lane. But of those teams who I like to win out, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Wizards. I think Bradley Beal said he doesn't want to get traded. I love that about him. He wants to win there. Westbrook is kind of turning the corner a little bit. Dylan. The thing about the Wizards is Bertans, can he be consistent? They paid him a lot of money this offseason to hit threes, and they need him. They need him to be big. They need him to show up. They need him to stretch the floor so Russell and Beal could get going. And that'll be I'm gonna go with the Wizards to win out and take that final 8 seed because the Atlanta's kind of falling apart. They fired their coach, and they're underperforming. Rondo's hurt, paid him a lot of money. And then Indiana's an interesting team because, they're a good basketball team. They're coached well, play hard, kind of under the radar. LeVert might be coming back soon, and that could be huge. He's so underrated, I think. And then we have Chicago, who, Levine can only do so much. He's a stud, but I think he... I think he may be. I don't want to say he's running out of juice, but I don't think he has enough. They don't have enough. They need more guys, I feel like. And now let's turn over to the Western Conference. The Western Conference, where last year was interesting with the Lakers, the Clippers, and this year we have some surprises up top. We have the Utah Jazz. Who would have thought that? They had a great bubble until the Nuggets, until Murray and Jokic showed up and were like, hold on, 3-1. We're coming back. But the Utah Jazz, it's funny because we saw yesterday with the All-Star game how LeBron and KD kind of left Gobert and Spida Mitchell at the end. And was that kind of a shot to them? I don't know. They have Ingles. They have Bogdanovich, who I think is a stud, and Jordan Clarkson, who's probably going to be the 6th man of the year, coming off the bench and just lights it up. They're an interesting team, but they kind of reminded me of the Hawks a couple years ago. Do you guys remember that? They had 4 All-Stars. They were the best team, and they got in the playoffs, and all of a sudden, they were just the Hawks. No one was scared of them, and that's kind of what I feel with the Utah Jazz. I think Donovan Mitchell has to be really, really special, and obviously he's a very gifted scorer, but he's got to take that next step and kind of develop into a passer too, and make the guys around him better. And I think that's when they'll be legit. Even though they're the 1 seed, I don't want to take anything away from them. They're the 1 seed, but I just don't think many teams are scared of them. I really don't. The Suns are fun. I want to root for Devin Booker. I love Devin Booker. I love the Chris Paul hire. The big guy in the middle, he's playing so good. And Jay Crowder was a great offseason pickup for them this year. It's another team. Are the Lakers and Clippers scared of them? No, I don't think so. In a 7-game series, I don't think either team are scared of them. I really don't. And I want to root for them. I really do. It's fun. It's good when, Devin Booker, a young superstar it's tough he's not playing in the All-Star game, and that's a bummer. He had a great first half. And then the Lakers. Lakers, to me, are the best team in the West. I think they're coasting. You can see LeBron. He's number 1 in defensive win percentage, and it's LeBron had. If you watch the Lakers day in and day out, they like to turn it on and turn it off a lot. Kuzma has turned into a rebounding machine that's only going to help him in the postseason. He crashes the boards hard. Shooter, oh my God, he's probably top. He's so fast. He's so fast, and he complements AD and LeBron so well. Caruso's playing well. Vogel's doing a great job, and Montrezl Harrell. I could keep going. The team is deep. The team just, Caldwell Pope really hasn't hit his stride yet. He hasn't hit the bubble stride yet, and I think that's my favorite team. But the big but. Can Anthony Davis get healthy? That's the biggest thing. They'll go as far as Anthony Davis goes, because if Anthony Davis is healthy, I think the Lakers are the best team in the West, and I don't think it's really close. The next team is the Clippers. The Clippers, I like what the Clippers have done. Kawhi's still taking his game off, but the thing that scared me this week was the game against the Milwaukee Bucks. That game was a game where I kind of scratched my head a little bit. They went cold in the fourth. Down the stretch, Paul George was bad. He turned into Pandemic P, which is tough. Kawhi was bad at the end of the games. And then the part that scares me the most is they gave up a dunk to win the game. And I think, down at the end of the game, you just got to lick your chops and kind of, dig down on defense, and you can't give up a dunk. That's the thing that scares me. But they've got that chip on their shoulder. And they've got to win. They've got to win. This team is good, and Batum has been great. Ibaka has been good. Zubac has been good. Patrick Beverley is a little bit older, and he's kind of been a little injured. Morris, paid a lot of money for him. Lou Will, he's finally turning into that Lou Will we know. So that team, those two teams, Lakers and Clippers, are the best two teams to me. It's just going to be interesting to see what Clipper team we get. The Trailblazers. The Trailblazers are always tough. And we see they have Dame Dollar. Clutch the guy has ice in his veins. Dame time. He's so good. And he's playing without his two guys. He's playing with no Nurkic, no CJ. And when they get back, they're scary. That team is scary. That the past couple of years they've been banged up. CJ and Dame, I think the best backcourt in the NBA. We can all agree on that. And then Nurkic is a beast down there. Can they stay healthy? That's always the biggest thing. Can they stay healthy? Trent, we saw Gary Trent had a big bubble. He's going to be fine. They're a scary team. No one wants to play them. Then the Nuggets. The Nuggets haven't really lived up to that bubble potential yet, but I think it's coming. Murray is he's getting going. Nurkic is getting going. Millsap is getting going. They're also banged up. Barton is out. Harris has been out for them, and I think they'll get back. They're just too good of a basketball team. Murray's too good of a basketball player. He's too good. He's a professional scorer. The guy is so good. And then Nurkic, the Joker. I'm sorry, the walking triple double. He plays at his own pace, like Luka. They're both slow, but they're not slow. It's weird, and they're just good. They're just good basketball players. And then we have the Spurs, a team that's flying under the radar. No one talks about the Spurs. They don't even have an All-Star this year. No All-Star. And you always ask, why are the Spurs? Why the Spurs? The answer every year, Greg Popovich. The guy could coach. DeMar DeRozan is having a sneaky good year. He should have been an All-Star. Compton, California, stand up, USC Trojan. He's having a great year. He's kind of accepting his role. Aldridge is playing well. They're just playing as a unit, kind of like the old Spurs. They're playing as a unit. No one's really talking about them, and that's kind of what Pop wants. No one's to talk about them, and they're just beating up. They're a good team. They're a good basketball team. They're good defensively, too. And then the Mavericks. The Mavericks, to me, it's all going to come down to Porzingis. Can Porzingis get healthy, and can he be the Porzingis that they traded for? Because in the last couple of years, he hasn't been that. He hasn't been Luka's Luka's Batman and his Robin. He hasn't been that. He's been banged up a lot. He's one of those guys that he's just got to dunk it. He lays the ball up too much to me. He's got to be aggressive, and they've got to be better from three. They've been the worst bottom of the league in 3-point, and they shoot too many threes. I think they got to get to the basket. Josh Richardson, who they picked up this offseason, has to, he's a good defensive guy. Carlo loves him. And I think, the Mavericks are a good team, but like I said, they'll go as Porzingis goes, and he's got to be a lot better. And Luka's second best player in the league. He's next. LeBron is now. Luka's next. He's stud. I could do a whole podcast on how great Luka is, and he was my MVP at the beginning of the season. He hasn't been that consistent, but Luka's amazing. Luka Magic, as I like to call him. Then the Warriors. The Warriors are an interesting team. This year they're more interesting than ever to me because we're starting to see a little bit of cracks, and Steph needs that help. Steph needs Draymond to be a lot better. He needs Wiseman to be a lot better. He's a rookie, but he's got to be better. That team just has to be better. They're not good enough to, have bad nights. They have to play a perfect game, and I don't think they're good enough. I think they'll fall out of the playoffs. They're the 9th seeded now. I don't see them. Curry, and I'll talk about this later in the show about Curry and the Warriors. He needs help. They need Clay bad. They miss Clay. The Grizzlies, John Morant, Valanciunas has had a good year. They're a fun team to play. Dylan Brooks plays hard. He's good defensively. They're an interesting team though, because they could get hot like they did last year, and they're young too. So this second half of the season that I'll talk about kind of favors them because they're young and they're fast and they run and they're young. Like I said, they don't have nothing to lose. And I like the Grizzlies. The Pelicans, that's the interesting team to me. The Pelicans. Lonzo's playing a lot better. Josh Hart, I love. Heart of a Lion, that guy, Villanova guy. These Villanova guys coming in the league and they just know how to play. Zion, all-star. Zion is having an awesome year. And like Thibodeau in New York, Van Gundy coaches. You've got to bring it every night or you won't play. He's one of those guys, and Zion's kind of taking that next level. Brandon Ingram's he's a baller. He gets professional scorer, get to the basket whenever he wants. They just have to be a lot better defensively. And I want them to incorporate JJ Redick a little bit more. If they incorporate JJ Redick a little bit more, I think JJ Redick is a good piece. And I don't think they use him very well. They've got to run plays for him. They need him more. They need to stretch the floor a little bit more. And Lonzo is kind of, I'll talk about this later in the show as well. Lonzo's he's got to get going because he might not be the best ball in the league, it looks like. And then the Thunder, the Kings. Oh, poor Kings. They haven't made the playoffs, and who knows. And then the Rockets. Yeah, I think the Rockets I don't see. Yeah, they're done. The Kings are done. And then the Thunder. I love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I love Lou Dort. They're just too young. They've got all these first-round picks coming up. They got to trade Horford. They're probably going to end up trading Horford and getting more pieces. We've all seen Sam Presti do that. But like I said, I'll give you guys my predictions a little bit later on the show. But like I said, the teams to beat: Lakers, Clippers, Nets, and Sixers. Those are the top teams. Those are my top teams: Sixers, Nets. I'm not worried about the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm really not. They've had a good first half. So there's a little recap on the first half, and it's been fun. And I think it's only going to get better for the NBA. I think it's going to be good. And like I said, today, stick around for the show. We've got some March Madness talk coming up. We've got my predictions on championships. Who's going to win the MVP? Who's going to win the Rookie of the Year? Who's going to be my March Madness sleepers? My predictions. And I'm going to dive into a little all-star weekend in the second half of the schedule. Tune in, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You heard about the first half of the regular season. Now, let's get to what we've all been waiting for, All-Star Weekend. And tune in later in the show as I give my predictions for March Madness and MVP awards. But first, let's get to this All-Star Weekend. So, this All-Star Weekend is going to be fun. Like I said, it's going to be different. It's going to be something like we haven't seen in a long time. And the format is awesome. I think that the NBA has gone to the last couple of years where they get the two highest vote getters, and those two guys kind of do their thing, and they vote for the guys that they draft their teams. And it's, kind of the best man wins kind of scenario. And this year, LeBron was leading the vote getter, so he had the number one pick. And Kevin Durant, who was the second guy, but he got hurt this year, so unfortunately he won't be able to play. But he still chose his team. And if you watch, there was a little bit of drama, and that's kind of what comes with this. This is kind of what the NBA wanted. They kind of wanted an event out of this, and I think they've done a great job, and I think it's done really well. But unfortunately for the Utah Jazz, who have the number one record in the NBA, a lot of people say they got bullied, but I think it's kind of a chess move for, LeBron and Durant. If the Utah Jazz end up making it that far, and I think it's funny, but let's dive into this. And I'm going to be talking about the three-point contest, which is my personal favorite. And we're going to talk about the dunk contest. It's going to actually happen at halftime, which is going to be cool too. And the skills challenge, which is going to happen before the game. And like I said, the All-Star game is usually an awesome weekend. It's going to be held in Atlanta this year for HBCUs. It's for a great cause, going to help these schools out. And let's look at these teams. So, Team LeBron had the number one pick, and it's funny because they joked on the show with NBA on TNT. They said, LeBron, is this gonna factor in a free agency? And he said, actually, none of these guys are free agents, so it's not gonna matter. And I thought that was really funny. So, with the first pick, I thought LeBron was gonna go Luka. He actually went Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Giannis had a funny quote yesterday after the game. He heard his team, and he was like, oh, yeah, this is over. And I'll tell you why here in a second. And then Kevin Durant, with his number one pick, he took, of course, his teammate Kyrie Irving, which is kind of an unwritten rule where you take your guy, right? And it's, I don't know if you would have taken him if otherwise. And then LeBron had the next pick, and we saw him. I thought, again, he was going to take Luka early, but he took Steph. And if you know what Steph and LeBron, they've had so many good matchups over the years. And I think it's cool to see them play together. But it's funny because Steph a couple of nights ago said, I think we still have the target on our backs from what we did to teams 5 years ago. And I think that was a little shot at LeBron. But, LeBron's a bigger man here, I guess. So he took Steph, and I think he just wants to see Steph firsthand shoot in front of him. And that's pretty awesome. And then Durant took a big man in Joel, who's arguably the MVP this year, front runner, having an awesome year. And then LeBron took Luka, who Luka loves LeBron. Actually, there's a backstory to that. LeBron wanted Luka to be the face of Team LeBron with Nike. That didn't end up happening. It was a weird situation what happened, and that ended up not happening. So he got his guy at the end of the day. And then to round off the teams, Kevin Durant had Kawhi Leonard, the Clipper, and Jason Tatum, and Bradley Beal. And LeBron finished with the Joker. And the teams were Bradley Beal, Joel Embiid, Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum. That's an awesome starting five. But LeBron's starting five is special. LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's won the last two MVPs. Steph Curry has changed the game forever from threes. Luka Doncic, Luka Magic as they like to call him, he's next. And then the Joker, the walking triple-double. My gosh, that lineup is deadly. But I don't know how much these guys will play. So that's kind of where I give Kevin Durant the edge, because Kevin Durant drafted an amazing bench. He has Devin Booker, who unfortunately is not going to play. Devin Booker was voted in because Anthony Davis got hurt, but he was well deserving of being an all-star. He got hurt, so Mike Conley is taking over for him. James Harden, Zach LaVine. Donovan Mitchell, Julius Randle, Vucevic, and Zion Williams. That's an awesome bench, and I think that bench will play a lot more than LeBron's bench, which is Jaylen Brown, Paul George, Rudy Gobert, Damian Lillard, Chris Paul, Sabonis, and Ben Simmons. And it was funny because LeBron tweeted out earlier this week that the two guys he thinks are the most underrated players who, he said were Damian Lillard, or not appreciated, and Devin Booker. And he took Damian Lillard with the first pick for the reserves. And I think this is an awesome, you're not going to find a better game in the world. You're not going to find a better glorified pickup game in the world than this Sunday in Atlanta. I mean, look at these lineups. These are dream teams. It's awesome to see. These are Team USAs. These are dream teams. It's crazy to see this. And like I said, I think Durant has an edge on the bench because, Zach LaVine could fill it up. Mitchell could fill it up. Julius Randle could fill it up. They're all young guys, too. It's going to be a bummer to not be able to see Devin Booker, I'm sorry. But it's going to be cool to see Mike Conley. They almost had him as the best guy to never make an All-Star game. And now he's made an All-Star game, and I think he's well-deserving. He's having a good year for the Utah Jazz, who are in first place, and they have 3 representatives. And then they have Zion. Jesus, that is a loaded, young team that could fill it up fast. And I think they're gonna get the bulk of the minutes. They have James Harden, who I don't know how much he'll play. And then we have Jaylen Brown, Ben Simmons, Dame, Chris Paul, Sabonis, and Rudy Gobert. And that's where I give Durant the edge. And those are the bulk of the guys. Like Damian Lillard, I don't know how much he'll play. Chris Paul, he's older. I don't know how much he'll play. Ben Simmons loves to play. He plays hard. He's going to play. Paul George, I don't know how much the Clippers are going to want him to play just because they've got a big second half coming up, and I think they're going to want him healthy. Jaylen Brown's probably going to play a lot. But like I said earlier, Joker, I don't know how much he'll play. Steph, I don't know how much he'll play. Giannis, I think he's going to play. He's young. He loves to play. He's a competitor. Why not? And then LeBron. I don't know how much LeBron's going to play in this game. He's a competitor. He doesn't like to lose. And if you saw last year and the last couple of years, he's been taking it really serious for the fans. And this year, with such a weird year, and they're playing so much, and then they had 70 days to recover from the last season, I don't know how much he'll play. And I think this year is going to be one of those years where we don't know. And like I said, the young guys will get the majority of the run. But it's going to be a fun game. Like I said, it's for a good cause. It's for a good weekend. The fans voted in the All-Stars, and I think they did a great job. It's going to be a fun game to watch. But I'm going to go with, like I said earlier, because I just don't know how much they'll play, I'm going to go with Team Kevin Durant. I think Team Kevin Durant's a little bit better. They're just a little bit younger, and they're ready to play and run. And then we have... I'm going to start off with the skills challenge. The skills challenge is always fun. It's one of my favorite contests. And to me, it's always whoever makes the three-pointer, because, they go through the agility stuff. But it's always who makes that three-pointer. And whoever makes that three-pointer usually wins the contest, because then they got a layup, and it's easy after that point. And in this year's, we have Robert Covington, who's sneaky fast, who's a good shooter. Luka, who's game fast, but kind of slow, good with the ball. Chris Paul, Julius Randle, Sabonis, and Vucevic. And I like Chris Paul a lot. He's won it before. He could shoot. Julius Randle could be a sneaky winner too. And Luka, I like Covington too, actually. I'm not a big fan of the big guys because the little guys can run a little bit faster and they can knock down the three ball. I'm going to go with Chris Paul just because he's so good at going in and out. And then he's got the three ball. But let's do this. I'm going to go with Luka Doncic, my winner. Luka Doncic for the skills challenge. That's going to be awesome. That's going to happen before the contest and a little warm up for the guys. I think that'll be cool. I think the players will be on the floor. And then we have the 3-point contest. This is going to be a good one. It's my favorite contest of all. How can you not love the best shooters in the NBA shooting? You're going to see Steph go crazy. Then you have the lineup is insane. You have Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Zach LaVine. Oh my God, Donovan Mitchell, who could fill it up fast. Mike Conley's gonna replace Devin Booker, who I absolutely love, and I thought Devin Booker was my early choice, but I'm gonna change my pick. And the rundown on this is Steph is second overall in three pointers made. He makes 4 a game. Jaylen Brown makes 2 a game. Tatum makes 2. Levine 3.5. Mitchell 3. And then Conley 3 a game. And their percentages. I mean, Steph Curry shoots a 41% clip. That is a clip. He's always locked and loaded. That's what I like to call a sniper. Ready to shoot at all times. Jaylen Brown drops off a little bit at 38, which is not a bad percentage. Tatum 36. And then Levine 43%. Absolutely fills it up. And then Mitchell, who you watch, takes over games from 3-point line, 38%. And Mike Conley, surprisingly, 42%. He doesn't shoot many of them, but he gets them up. God, this is a tough one because I know how hot Zach LaVine and Donovan Mitchell could get. When they get going, they are flamethrowers. Absolute flamethrowers. And I'm going to go, my pick, I'm going to go, man, it's hard to root against Steph because he arguably changed the three-point I think they should name this contest after Steph Curry. He changed the game of basketball with the three-point shot. I'm going to go Steph Curry. Just because I'm going to do a little backstory on this. Steph Curry, a couple nights ago, this is crazy. There was a 4-on-1 break, and the team needed a 2-pointer to win the game. And they had a fast break, right? And all 3 guys ran the 3-point line. The Denver Nuggets, they had a wide open layup. It was a 4-on-1, and they all ran to the 3-point line. They ended up missing the 3, and they lost the game. And that's the Steph Curry effect. The Steph Curry effect, it doesn't matter how big you are now. You don't have to be big. You don't have to jump out of the gym. As long as you could make 3-pointers, you're going to get paid. We saw a couple guys, Joe Harris get paid. Bertans got paid to make threes. You love to see it, Steph Curry changed the game forever. So I'm going to go with Steph Curry, 3-point contest winner. That's my pick just because it's hard to pick against Steph. He's just too good of a shooter. And then the contest that brings us all to our feet, the slam dunk contest. We'll see how good it'll be this year. We've got 2 rookies in there. I think it's going to be good. Simmons, a 21-year-old from the Portland Trailblazers. Everything I read, everything I see, he's got sneaky bounce. Look out for it. He's apparently he could jump out of the gym. He hasn't shown it much, but they said he's sneaky bouncy. And I'm waiting to see that because I love, you love to see a guy like that, 21 years old. And then we have Cassius Stanley, who's been playing in the D League, plays for the Indiana Pacers out of Duke, Los Angeles, California kid. And a crazy stat, he has a 46 inch vertical at Duke. And this is a crazy stat. You know who else played at Duke, right? And could jump out of the gym? Zion Williamson, right? Stanley has the highest vertical leap ever recorded for a Duke player. That's a trivia question that if someone asks you, you're probably going to get wrong. Because, Stanley's that guy. And I guess he's sneaky and he's going to be the guy, I think. And then Obi Toppin, New York Knicks, stand up. I think that he's an awesome pick for this. 6'9" dunker. Brings the rim down. He's vicious. The only thing that I don't want to say I don't like, but that's harder for a 6'9" guy, is they have to dunk a lot harder because these smaller guys make it look, they're getting higher, it looks like, right? Because they're smaller. So it looks like it's easier for Toppin, who's 6'9". And big guys usually don't win the dunk contest, I want to say. The last guy I want to say was Dwight Howard, maybe, right? But the key for me is the first try. You make the first try, you wow the crowd. And I don't know how many people will be in Atlanta, but I think the players will definitely be in Atlanta. And the judges is 7 dunk contest winners. So the judges, they'll be good. Dominique will be out there, Spud Webb, Jason Richardson, and Josh Smith. I think, there'll be some good eyes out there. But I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with my LA guy, Cassius Stanley. I think he's going to rock it. He's going to, like I said, they're saying he's got a higher vertical than Zion Williamson. And that's hard for me to bet against. If you could do that, that's tough. Like, my buddy Dennis Schroeder says. That's tough. So I want to talk a little bit about this second half of this NBA schedule. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for these older teams. It's going to be tough because there's so many back-to-backs. We've got a lot of teams that have to fly cross-country, and I'm looking at the Lakers' schedule right now, and how are they going to get healthy, right? I saw on the schedule they have a game against the Washington Wizards in Washington, and then 2 nights later they play in LA against the Kings. Flying in the NBA, this is not the NBA bubble. You've got to fly now. Flying takes a toll on people. You're sleeping in different beds every night. You're playing every other night. So I think a young team is going to be favored a little bit more because they could play. You know, their bones are, their bodies are a little bit different. And these teams are going to be taking big East Coast and West Coast swings, and that's going to be tough. And I know the NBA kind of held off to give us the second wave of schedules. And I don't like it personally as a fan. I love it because I get to watch basketball every night. So that's cool. But if you want to see good basketball, I think they should have lessened the games and a little bit more rest, because now it's going to be a lot of strategy. And I think you're going to see a lot more guys take games off. But this year's been funny with the NBA because there's really no home court advantage, because there's no fans in the stands yet, and if they do, it's like 15-20%, and that's not going to really change a guy. As much as you had courtside Karen who yelled at LeBron the other day, but fans aren't being that much of a factor this year. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, because how much do the Clippers rest Kawhi and Paul George, right? How much do the Lakers rest Anthony Davis, who's coming off an injury and probably shouldn't be playing every other night, and then traveling for that matter? The thing about it is, like the Warriors, a team like the Warriors, they've got to get going, right? They got to play. Giannis, Giannis is young. He's a competitor. They're not going to bench him too much. Portland, they've got to get healthy. CJ, there's a lot of teams that are coming off injuries that this second half is huge for them, because do you want to play in that play-in tournament? I don't think a lot of these teams want to play in that play-in tournament, because it's almost anybody's game. It's kind of like in baseball. It's a wild card game, Anybody could kind of win on any given night, and we see that in the playoffs a lot. Denver, they were coming off a lot of injuries. This is going to be a tough second half, You're playing every other night. And like I said, the Spurs are flying under the radar, and as I look at the standings, I only see them going a little. Right now they're a 6 seed, I want to say, 7 seed. I see them going up. I think, to me, the Warriors fall out, like I said. Memphis, it's going to be a tough sledding here for a couple of these teams as I look at rosters and stuff like that. Portland's got to get healthy, like I said earlier in the podcast. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. NBA, but as you know, TV drives it. Money drives all of this. They needed to play these games. TV money. But like I said, if you're a fan, you'd love to see it. I think the coaching and the training staffs are going to have the hardest decisions to make on every given night. You really don't know who's going to play. And I'm not a fan of it. We start March 11th, so they're going to have a little bit of a break from the All-Star game, and hopefully some of these teams could rejuvenate. It gives guys that have had little injuries some time to recover. But like I said, going forward, it's whoever could stay the healthiest and could peak at the best time. As we saw last year, the Lakers kind of started going, towards the tail end, and in the bubble, they kind of coasted a little bit, and they're kind of coasting this year. And the Brooklyn Nets, can KD get healthy again? It's going to be interesting to see the second half of this schedule. But coming up, ladies and gentlemen, we have March Madness, my sleeper picks, my guys who I think will make some noise in this year. Then we have the NBA Rookie of the Year coming up. We've got the Coach of the Year, NBA Coach of the Year, Sixth Man Coach of the Year, Rookie of the Year. We've got it all coming up, ladies and gentlemen, after the show. Don't go away. We'll We'll be right back after this short message. You want to stay tuned for this March Madness stuff because you know this March Madness stuff gets really fun. Don't go anywhere. Hold tight.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. As you've been listening, we talked a little All-Star break. We talked about the second half of the season and the struggles. And now, let's jump into some March Madness, some LeBron James greatness, and trades and buyouts that will make teams better. So, this year's March Madness, or college basketball season, has been different. It's just flat out different. Like I said earlier in the podcast, everything has been different this year. You don't really know what to expect. You don't know anything. So for me, this year in college basketball, more than any other sport, the lower you go, high school sports, the team that has the most structure from program to coaches and players, I thought would be best suited. And I was wrong with me thinking Duke, who I think has a great structure, maybe the greatest coach of all time, and Coach K, would have a chance. And we don't even know if they're going to get into the dance. It's crazy to think that Duke might not make it. They're right on that bubble. And then you see a team like Kentucky, who kind of makes sense as to why they don't make it. They've got a lot of one and done guys, a lot of guys that come in there and they think they'll be there for a year and they're out. And they have struggled mightily. They have struggled terribly. And it's one of those things that with so much talent, you say, how are these guys not succeeding? And a year like this is where you need structure. You need those veteran guys, those guys that have been there 2 to 3 years, 4 years, the guys that go to, the Iowas of this world, the Oklahoma States, the Arkansas, the Baylors, the Illinois, the Gonzagas. These are the teams that you're seeing succeed. Florida State has a couple vets. They got a couple young guys. And this year, I don't want to brag or anything like that, but I've won my last 2 March Madness tournaments. So I would call myself, I would say I'm pretty decent at this whole March Madness saga. But this year, I have been watching college basketball and I don't really know because, like, for Michigan, they took like 2 weeks off. Baylor, a top team, took 2 weeks off. You don't really know, especially with young guys. With NBA guys, you could kind of, they could get back in a rhythm. But young guys, it's a little bit tougher. They haven't never been through something like this, And sometimes with the whole COVID thing, is they stop practice completely, and you get out of shape, and then you have to jump right back in the season. And like Michigan, they've kind of, it was almost like I don't want to say a vacation, but it seemed they're playing good basketball. And this year is going to be, like I said, it's going to be funny. And I think the way I usually pick is I pick the guys with the most talent, which is obviously pretty cliche, right? Most NBA guys. And a mixture between that and guys that have been there, if that makes sense. So I love the Villanovas of the world. And, Villanova, they had a tough injury One of their top guys is out, and I had them really high on my board. But he was the engine of that team. It's going to be tough. That I hate to see that. You hate to see anybody get hurt. But the team that has been steady, they've been strong. I'm gonna wait to give you my pick who I think is the big dog. But if you've been watching college basketball, from me saying that, you know who I'm gonna go with. But the teams that I want you to look out for, these are the teams that I'm like, okay, if you see them on your bracket, you got to be a little scared. Iowa, Garza. This kid is special. He's a big guy. He's not afraid to bang down there. He could take over games. He could stretch the floor. He's big. Like I said, he likes to bang. Not many big guys are like that anymore, so look out for him. I like Oklahoma State a lot. They have Cunningham. That kid he's arguably the best player in the country. They're going to be a tough out. I think they're going to be a tough out. Michigan. I love Michigan. They're scrappy. They kind of take after their coach, Juwan Howard. They got the big freshman kid down low who's got great footwork, great hands, great around the basket, likes to dunk on guys, and I like that a lot. And then I like this team right here, Arkansas. Arkansas, they are hot. And they kind of remind me a little bit of like a Murray State a couple years ago. You remember with John Morant? They're clicking. And I love Arkansas. They're scrappy. I love guys that, they dive all over the floor. They're never out of games. And in college basketball, you're never really out of games. But Arkansas kind of look out for Arkansas. I like them a lot. And then Baylor. I like Baylor a lot. Obviously, they're a top seed, but they're just, how do I describe this? They're dogs. They get after it. They're relentless on the boards, and a team that could rebound. I was watching the game the other night against West Virginia. They had 5 offensive rebounds. They ended up not capitalizing. But the way they get after the boards, the way they crash, everyone boxes out. They don't give up on plays, and I like that a lot about them. They shoot the 3-ball really well, and they're very well coached. Look out for them. But the only thing that scares me about Baylor is they had a 3-week COVID pause, and that kind of messed with them a little bit. Illinois is another team that they've got one of the best players in the country. Look out for them. They just beat Michigan too. Illinois could be scary, but the team that I think, every year they get close and, they get knocked out every year. And we say, is their conference weak? Can they not do it? This is their year where they have come into this year fully loaded. They've got the freshman phenom. Mark Few up in Washington does an awesome job year in, year out recruiting. Gonzaga. I think it's the year of the Zags. They've got everything going. They have the best structure. They've got the best coach, I think, right now. And he's got his guys playing. And like I said earlier, in this COVID year, the team with the best structure, I think personally, has the best chance. Just because they could go through COVID but have a steadiness of the team. And I think Gonzaga is that steady. So this year, my March Madness prediction is Gonzaga. Tough team. They're going to be a tough out. And like I said, look out for Ohio State too. Ohio State's a good basketball team. But Gonzaga, through it all, I think they'll be cutting the net in Indianapolis. And it's going to be a cool setup because it's all going to be in Indianapolis. They're all going to be there. It's kind of like a bubble setting, no traveling. So Gonzaga, my final pick, March Madness. Take my word. Back-to-back champions. I've been, last year we didn't have March Madness, and that was a bummer because we all like to play with our buddies, and it's bragging rights. So I've had bragging rights for almost 2 years. I took Virginia. I love Ty Jerome, and I love Kyle Guy. But Gonzaga, let's do it, Zags. Let's put on for the West Coast. And so let's jump back into the NBA. And this is an interesting part of the year where trades, buyouts, and all that good stuff happens. And you say, how can a team get better? How does a team take that leap? Does a team that's not contending, do they trade? Do they hold on? What do you do? And for me, a lot of it comes down to, is that player have an expiring contract? Do you want to get something for a guy instead of him just kind of walking? And that's kind of the instance I see a lot with Zach LaVine and the Chicago Bulls. That's an interesting one because they're right around hovering right there. They could go for it. But are you good enough? Are you going to make a run? Are you going to invest in Zach LaVine long term? What do you do? John Collins with the Hawks, a lot of bumping heads. Do you invest in him long term? Right? What do you do? Or do you get some assets for him? Do you get a second round pick or something like that? Victor Oladipo, he declined a 2-year deal extension with the Houston Rockets. Do you just let him walk? These are scenarios that a front office has to play in their head. And I personally think you trade him. You get something for it. Because you don't want a guy to walk out of a building when you could have had something for him. And you just get nothing for it, and he walks, and you had a bad season. I don't see a point in that. Another guy that I see that with, that it's a very interesting situation, Lonzo Ball. Lonzo's a very interesting situation because obviously him and the Pelicans couldn't come up with the deal this offseason. And you wonder why. Are the Pelicans scared with him long term? What's the deal with Lonzo? Because we really haven't seen Lonzo the defender, Lonzo the passer. I think he's great, but sometimes he's not as assertive as he should be. And for the Pelicans as an organization, as a small market, do you invest big money in a guy like that? The answer to me is he's playing really good basketball right now. He's shooting the 3 ball really well. But is it a contract year? That's always a scary thing with a lot of guys. And that was a question with Julius Randle for the Knicks. He's in a contract year. Is he playing his lights? Is he playing his heart out? I think he's playing great basketball, Julius Randle. I think the Knicks are going to invest in him long term. But the Lonzo situation is a little different. That's a very tricky one. And if I'm the Pelicans, to be honest with you, I think you ride this wave until a trade deadline. If you get enough for him, if somebody gives you a first round pick, I think you take it. I don't know if you're going to get that at this point, but he could also help a contender out if the Pelicans, fall out, fizzle out here, and he could be a great help for one of these contending teams. And the buyout market. The buyout market's interesting this year in a sense that we saw Blake Griffin today, and he's a front runner to sign with the Nets. That's interesting to me because Blake Griffin, are we talking Blake Griffin of the old or Blake Griffin of the new, who's not, how do we say this in the nicest way? Blake Griffin was one of my favorite players coming out of Oklahoma. I would love him on, oh my God, I don't want to show my true colors here. But when he was on the Clippers, I always wanted him on the Lakers. And I thought he was an awesome fit. But now, he doesn't shoot the 3 ball as well. He's not very good on defense. And he's not a rim protector anymore. So how much value does he bring to a team? Maybe to a second unit. Maybe giving you 10 points, 12 points off the bench. Well, that's going to be interesting to see. Al Horford for the Thunder. I think he could make a big impact for a team, for a contender. The Celtics, I don't think you'll see that reunion again, but he'll have to get bought out because that's a huge contract. And or he could get traded. And Presti up in Oklahoma City loves his picks. He's got so many picks here in the coming years. That's going to be an interesting one to see. And then Andre Drummond, who I think could help a lot of basketball teams. A lot of basketball teams, especially the Los Angeles Lakers. Even the Clippers, I think he could help. But the Lakers so much they missed JaVale McGee from last year, and Dwight Howard, they let them both walk. That's going to be an interesting one to see. They traded JaVale. Drummond would help a lot of teams. Kevin Love, he's been out a lot with an Achilles injury. He's been practicing, so he's close to coming back. That'll be interesting to see what the Cavs end up doing, because I don't think the Cavs, I don't know if they could go for it. I mean, they're not far, but they're not close either. JaVale will probably get traded or bought out. Not a big contract. Aaron Gordon is a name that we've been seeing get tossed around a lot. Him and John Collins are two names that we've been seeing get tossed around a lot. Aaron Gordon could help out a contender. I keep seeing this to the Celtics, and I don't know where he fits there. They've got a lot of guys that do what he does, you know? I don't see that. I don't see that as an upgrade. So Aaron Gordon, he's a good player, but I don't know. It's one of those things. And the far shots that I think about getting traded: Porzingis and Bradley Beal. What you see the names thrown around. Bradley Beal came out and said, "I do not want to be traded from the Washington Wizards." What does that mean? I don't know what it means, because usually when guys say that, there's something else coming up in the background. Or the Wizards, do they want to trade him? Do they want to kind of rebuild? They see this, what's going on. They got a lot of young pieces. Thomas Bryant, they're just good. Hachimura, they're a good They're a good young basketball team. So it's going to be interesting to see what Bradley Beal. He wants to stay in DC. He does a lot of work in the community. He's a great basketball player, one of the best scorers in the NBA that we have today. So I would like to see that. I would like to see him win there, but that's going to be a tough place to win. And Porzingis, I talked about it a little bit early on my show. Porzingis the Dallas Mavericks have been cheated out on Porzingis, I feel like. Because the Porzingis they traded for, his nickname was a unicorn. And he's been, he hasn't been a unicorn. He's been average, I think, at best. He's been banged up all year. He hasn't been very good for them. And do they trade him maybe to the Warriors, maybe to make a push? But to the Warriors, does that make sense for them? I don't know. So Porzingis is one to look out for. It's quiet. It's been quiet. No one's really talked about it, but you know, I see that. I could see that happening. The Mavs, you know, they're right in the thick of things. And then Kyle Lowry. The Raptors, you know, he's a longtime Raptor. They traded his guy DeRozan to the Spurs, and he's been doing well with Greg Popovich. But Kyle's one of those guys that he could make a contender a lot better. Can you imagine him going to the Bucks or something like that? That would make the Bucks instant. I mean, I would love that. That would be a great fit for the Bucks. I think he helps out a lot of ball clubs, to be honest with you. And he's a guy that's not afraid to stick his nose into places. He's tough. He's gritty. Clippers could even use him. That would be a nice pickup for the Clippers. I just don't know who they would trade for him. Maybe Lou Will. And Lou Will's name has been thrown around a lot in trade talks. But Lou Will's picked it up in the last couple of weeks. He was not playing very well. I don't know if he was missing his partner, Montrezl Harrell, on the bench squad, but he's picked it up. And then we've got teams that kind of have no business. They're basically eliminated. And what do you do with guys like PJ Tucker, Wayne Ellington for the Detroit Pistons? I even saw Jeremy Grant's name being thrown around, and he's having a great year. I don't know if Detroit wants to let that go, because that's a great building piece for them. And he's young, he's athletic, he likes Detroit. He picked Detroit over the Nuggets. They offered him the same amount of money. Then you see the guys like Eric Gordon, who could stretch the floor for a contender. You need three ball in the playoffs. JJ Redick, he's 36 and he's got an expiring contract. That's another good one that you know, he could help the Bucks. He could help the Philadelphia 76ers maybe go back. Right? He would help the Phoenix Suns. He would help the Lakers, the Clippers, the Jazz. You can never have enough shooting on a team. Portland, Denver. I mean, all these teams would love to have JJ Redick. Just because he opens the floor so much. Wayne Ellington, he's always one of those guys that he's forever in his life been able to shoot. The guy came out of the womb shooting. PJ Tucker, a defensive-minded guy who will guard the other team's best player. That's another guy to look out for. That's a name that's been thrown around a lot. PJ Tucker, he's been very loyal to the Rockets, but he's an older cat, so he might want to be. I mean, if I'm him, I want to win, right? It's, not many years left. So it's going to be interesting to see how these next couple of weeks play out. And of course, you have teams that, they think they're still in it, but then they fizzle out at the beginning of the second half, and all of a sudden they're traitors. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I do think Blake Griffin to the Nets might be done as of today. That's all I've been reading is that's done. Al Horford, like I said, could be bought out, but that's a massive contract. I think the Thunder would rather trade him and get something for him, Sam Presti's way. And then Drummond. Those are the two big names, Griffin and Drummond, who I think will get bought out. Drummond hasn't been playing. They made him sit out for some time, and which is unfortunate. You hate to see that because, if it was the other way around, it wouldn't work that way. But like I said, Drummond, Griffin, look out for that. Lonzo, look out for it. Porzingis, that's my sleeper. Porzingis and Levine are two guys that could be on the move and could change a team, could automatically put them in contention to win a championship. Look out for those two. And we'll be back here in a second where I wrap things up with my predictions. I gave you my March Madness winner, and I'll elaborate again on my Gonzaga pick. I'll talk my NBA champion, my coach of the year, my sixth man of the year, my MVP, the hot race, and the rookie of the year. Is that even a discussion? Find out after this break.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, to wrap things up. In the last segment, I talked a little March Madness, and I gave you a little preview of the trade deadline. And on this last segment, I want to talk a little bit about LeBron James and the greatness of LeBron James. And then at the end, I'll end up giving you my NBA champions, my defensive player of the year, my rookie of the year, my coach of the year, sixth man of the year, my MVP, and the NBA champion. So, let's talk a little LeBron James, the usage of LeBron James, and what we could expect from LeBron James in the second half of the season. So, LeBron's had an awesome career, as we all know, and in 17 years, did we expect him to be doing this? Like, Father Time is knocking on the door, and we've seen it in other great sports like Tom Brady, who just won a Super Bowl. LeBron James, this is incredible what he's doing at this age, and playing these minutes and playing double overtimes, playing without Anthony Davis, and we keep saying, is he going to be able to do it? And he keeps doing it. what more do we expect from this guy? I mean, it's something that no one predicted. No one saw it coming. What he's doing now, I feel like probably won't get done again. The way he takes care of his body, the way he puts, they say, close to $1 million, if not $1 million into his body and just taking care of it. Food, physique, trainers, sleeping. He loves taking naps, he says. Eats clean. But the secret recipe, he says, is wine. Isn't that something? What he's done is simply something that, like I said, probably won't be done again. What he's doing, he's averaging, and it's crazy to say that he's got better throughout the years. With age, he's aging like fine wine. He's shooting the ball a lot better. He's a better teammate now, I want to say. He still gets his teammates involved. He knows how to turn it on, turn it off. And believe it or not, he's turned into a better defender. And that's, as a 36-year-old guy who looks, who's built like him, who could mail it in on defense. And I think he does sometimes. And if you watch the Lakers, you kind of like, LeBron, get over on rotations. But he's taking charges. He's blocking shots. He's getting in air spaces. He's getting steals. Like, he's in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. And I'll talk about a little bit about my Defensive Player of the Year a little bit later. But what he's doing, I just can't fathom enough and tell you guys it's special. And we've got to take all this bashing stuff. We've got to stop. We've got to take this stuff. We might not ever see it like I said it. So we've got to take it with greatness. And we're watching something really special. And I'm glad, I'm an LA guy and I get to see him on a nightly basis. And it's incredible what he does. Because there's nights where I'm just like, okay, LeBron, take the night off. We're playing against, I don't know, the other day we played against the Wizards and I said, come on, we don't need you. Like, take the night off. We went into overtime, I think, and he played like 38 minutes. It's crazy. He's built like a machine, but it's okay. We like to see it, so that's good. Another thing I want to touch on is the Warriors. The Warriors are an interesting discussion because they were good for all those years. The dynasty it looks like it's almost falling apart, and they're holding on with the needle, and they're really hoping for Klay Thompson to kind of change the franchise around next year. But Steph's a year older, Draymond's a year older. You see, is it the end of a dynasty? I think so. I think Kevin Durant leaving to Brooklyn kind of solidified that and kind of the end of an era. It was great what they did. That was one of the greatest 5-year spans of basketball. They were so good. They were so fun to watch. But I think that is done. Steph Curry has changed the game forever. He's given guys like Trae Young, small guys, an opportunity. If you could shoot, you could pull up from half court, shoot the ball. He's even put that into LeBron's game. If you look at LeBron James shooting, he's pulling up now from the logo. It's crazy to see what these guys are doing now. But the Warriors, I think, should be traders at the deadline because I don't think they could hold on to this in the Western Conference. It's just too deep of a conference. And maybe bank on next year. Wiseman looks like he's promising. I like Pascal for them. I hope they don't trade him. I hope they don't do anything like that because, next year, if you have Klay Thompson, who might be the best addition of the offseason, he's going to be coming back. Hopefully he comes back and, the Achilles is healed, and I know he tore his ACL before that, so that's going to be tough. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Warriors and how, they were great for basketball, and they were gone just like that, So I want to talk a little bit about my NBA playoff predictions. So my prediction, here comes prediction time. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Prediction time. I'll give you my, I already gave you my March Madness winner. Like I said, Gonzaga, I think they're deep. They're the best team, I think, all around, from coach, from program. They've got guys, they've got leaders. And I think this is their year, unless they have like a fluke and lose to like Belmont in like Sweet 16 or something like that, or Loyola Chicago. But I think they're the team to beat, and I think they'll go all the way. So let's get it back into this playoff predictions. So let's start off with the Eastern Conference. I'm sorry, and I don't think there'll be much movement. I think it'll fluctuate between the 76ers and then Brooklyn and the Bucks. And then that's where I think things get funny. I think the Miami Heat will get a little bit better. I do think Jimmy Butler is healthy. So I'm gonna say the Heat hop into that 5 spot. I think the Knicks might slip a little bit. I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna go 76ers, Nets, Bucks, Celtics, Knicks. Yeah. I'm going to go, 76ers, Nets, Bucks, Celtics, Heat, Knicks. And I'm going to keep Charlotte in at 7. And my 8th seed, who's going to jump, they're only 3 games back now, the Washington Wizards. So the 7 to 10 teams are going to play in that play-in tournament. I'd like the Wizards jumping. They're only 2 games back from that tournament. And in that tournament, I trust Bradley Beal more than I trust Siakam and Lowry right now. And they might get traded. Kyle Lowry might get traded. And I trust him more than the Bulls. I trust him more than the Pacers. But if LeVert comes back, the Pacers are going to be very interesting. Keep it at that. So let's say I'm going to go 76ers versus the Wizards. Wow. That would be a hell of a first round series. And then we got Nets against the Hornets. Oh my God, that would be great. LaMelo Ball. Let's see how put him to the test against the 3-headed monster. And then we got the Bucks against the New York Knicks. How about that? That fans might be coming back in New York and Los Angeles. How awesome would it be to have playoff basketball at Madison Square Garden? Oh me, oh my, that would be great. And then I'm gonna have the Celtics against the Heat, and that's gonna be a gritty matchup. I like the Heat. They're gritty, and like I said, the Celtics they're not special to me. They're really not. I think they're too small, and they're not as good as, and I don't think they're very good, to be honest with you. Not championship good to be. And I think the last 2 seeds that are gonna end up being 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when Kevin Durant comes back. But my pick in the Eastern Conference is the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid is playing at a whole different level. And I'll get into a little bit of Joel Embiid a little bit later in my predictions. And in the West, we have the Utah Jazz, the Phoenix Suns, the Lakers, Clippers, Blazers, Nuggets, Spurs, and the Dallas Mavericks. Now, that play-in tournament's going to be good because it looks like the Spurs, Mavericks, Warriors, and Grizzlies are in. But I don't think there's going to be too much movement here in the West. I really don't. Utah, I don't think the Lakers will end up in the 1st seed or the Clippers will end up in the 1st seed. I think Utah might stay up there, but they might fall. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if the Suns end up with the best record. Now, that's if the Lakers kind of keep coasting, the Clippers keep coasting. But if Anthony Davis comes back, the thing about the Lakers is they might start resting guys. That's going to be funny to see. It's going to be, I think Phoenix is going to end up with the top seed. And like I said, I don't trust the Utah Jazz. They will fizzle out. I don't think they're going to be that. They don't scare me. They really don't. Like I said, they don't scare me. They'll fizzle out. So my final prediction for the West will be the Suns against the Dallas Mavericks. And there, that could be anybody's matchup because if Porzingis is playing a little bit better, but then they have Luka Magic who's special. He loves the moment. And let's say the Utah drops to the 2nd. No, I'm gonna go Lakers in the 2nd seed. Lakers against the Spurs. I think that'll be a easy matchup for the Lakers. And then we've got Denver against the Clippers. And there, we know what happened last year, 3-1 down. Jamal Murray, the Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trailblazers those are two teams that I could see that as they get healthier, climb up in the standings. And the Clippers against the Trailblazers, God, that would be such a good series. I would love to see. I wish the standings just kind of stayed this way. These would be some great match. Can you imagine Clippers Trailblazers in the first round? Wow, that would be awesome. So I'm going to end up doing it. I think it's going to be Los Angeles against Los Angeles. No, I'm going to go Los Angeles against the Portland Trailblazers. I think the Clippers are going to fall apart again. I don't think they're as good as they were last year. And last year, I think the basketball gods kind of took it from them. And from the Western Conference, I'm going to go young, healthy Anthony Davis and the Los Angeles Lakers. And now let's jump into my Defensive Player of the Year. My finalists are Rudy Gobert, Ben Simmons, LeBron James, Giannis, and that's it. Rudy Gobert, the presence down in the middle. Ben Simmons could guard any position almost. LeBron James, highest defensive rating in the league. And Giannis, a specimen. I'm going to end up going with... Oh, man, that's going to be a tough one because I like Rudy. He's won it last year. I'm going to go with Ben Simmons. Because they'll probably end up with the best record in the East, and they'll get rewarded for that. And I think Ben Simmons, like I said, he could guard every position. I like Ben Simmons. Do we even have to talk about my Rookie of the Year? Because this guy is averaging 15 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds in 28 minutes. He could pass, he could rebound, he could run. Teammates love him. Michael Jordan said he's exceeded expectations. LaMelo Ball. He's what we thought Lonzo would be, but this kid is good. And he could shoot. The only part of his game that needs a little bit of help is his shooting, but that comes with time. We've seen it with all these players, with like LeBron James. We've seen it with everybody. The shot comes. You could teach that. But the kid is special. He runs the floor well. He's got great vision. He's one of those guys that sees the pass before it happens. Good kid, too. Hopefully he doesn't get in any trouble. But I like his game. Sixth Man of the Year. This is going to be an interesting award because I think this award will be determined in the second half of the season. Right now, I have a dark horse. And I don't know if he'll be considered for it because sometimes he starts, but most of the time he comes off the bench. And this guy is Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma has come out of nowhere. I take that back because he's a top guy, but his game has evolved. His game is no longer I need to score. He's kind of realized that if you play with LeBron James, you've got to do the small things. You've got to do things that don't show up in the stat sheet. You've got to run the floor. You've got to play defense. You've got to crash the boards. And he's done all of that and more. He's averaging 25 minutes, 11 points off the bench. The 3-point ball hasn't been as consistent as the Lakers have wanted, but he's rebounding the ball. 6 rebounds a game, 4 on defense, 2 on offense. He's flying all over the floor. If you watch him, he's like an Energizer bunny. Kyle Kuzma, look out for that. That could be a dark horse for the Sixth Man of the Year. That's my dark horse to win it. And then the front runner to me, though, is Jordan Clarkson, former Laker, automatic bucket getter. He got rewarded this offseason with a contract. Like I said, he's instant offense off the bench. He's the second leading scorer on that team. He leads the league in bench scoring with 17 points off the bench, 26 minutes, and he's making 3 threes a game. Jordan Clarkson, Mizzou. I think it's his. I think it's his award to lose, to be honest with you. And then we have Coach of the Year, Quinn Snyder, Tom Thibodeau, and Steve Nash deserves some credit, and Monty Williams does as well. Steve Nash for managing that team. He's got a great team out there. And, you know, it's going to be tough, but I think Quinn Snyder is going to end up winning it. They're in the first place, 27-9. Doc Rivers should also get some love, but that's a good team. Quinn Snyder, no one kind of saw this coming. You know, they had that tough 3-1 loss in the bubble. The team is playing well, 27-9. They have 3 All-Stars, like I said, Conley, Mitchell, and Gobert. So I think they'll get rewarded. I'm going to take Quinn Snyder, hell of a coach, tough guy, as Coach of the Year. Tom Thibodeau deserves a lot of respect, though, and I think he deserves some love as well. And like I said, I think I said Jordan Clarkson is going to be my winner for six-man, but look out for Kyle Kuzma. And the MVP. Who do I think the MVP is? I have 3 guys, and I like these guys a lot. I like Joel Embiid, first place in the East. LeBron James, third place in the West. And the third guy I have is James Harden. So I'm going to talk about James Harden. I think he's outside looking in, but he's quietly having a great year. He plays every night, and that's huge. You play every night, you're reliable. You know, I could count on you every night. 25 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, field goal percentage 49%. I mean, dude's balling. He's balling. He's getting everyone involved. He's kind of taking that role of being the point guard on that team. It's a tough thing to do, is come to a new team and kind of make an impact the way he has, and he's done everything that they've asked for and more. So I think he deserves some credit for that. And the 2 guys that I think is 1A, 1B right now is Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid came into the best shape I've ever seen him. I think, like I said earlier in the podcast, he's taken this team, and it's his team now. He's playing both sides of the floor. He's playing defense. He's playing offense. This is what we expected of a Joel and Embiid when we saw his size, we saw his footwork, we saw everything that he has. He's motivated, I think, this year. Doc Rivers has kind of lit a fire under him. Their record is 24-12. Like I said, best record in the West. He's shooting, 41% from 3. He's averaging a steal a game, 33 minutes a game, 52% from the field, 30 points, 11 rebounds, 1 block, almost a block and a half a game, 85% from the free throw line, and 3 assists. Man, those are some crazy numbers. And then LeBron James, 24-13, obviously. 34 minutes for 17 years in the league, 50% from the field. That's special, guys. And he's shooting a lot too. He's not just getting all his buckets at the rim. 25.8 points, 8 rebounds, 1 steal, 7 assists. Free throw percentage could be higher. It's 69%. But the defensive rating, guys, 102, highest in the NBA. In his 17th campaign, highest defensive rating. Man, that's going to be a tight race. And like I said, it's going to be determined in the second half, Joel Embiid. And it's going to be interesting to see also, because we're going to see how much these 2 guys get rest. That's going to be another big thing for these guys. How much rest do these 2 guys get, or do they go for it? And my MVP, I'm going to go with LeBron James. I think he's going to turn it up, and he wants to go back-to-back. He wants to bring that another championship to the Lakers. And he's going to have to elevate his game, especially if Anthony Davis is out for a little bit of time, and I think they should give him a little bit of time off. And to wrap things up, I'm going to give my NBA championship. Who does it go to? It's going to be the 76ers against the Los Angeles Lakers. We're going to go Lakers in a 7-game series. It's going to be one of those finals, man. That's going to be one that we remember for a long time. Doc Rivers, he wants another championship. He's tough. He's a tough guy. Like I said, Ben Simmons they're balling. Tobias Harris is playing well. Curry's stretching the floor. I like what they're doing out there in Philadelphia. And then the Lakers, of course, I think with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Schroeder, Harrell, Kuzma, Caruso. The Lakers are deep, and we'll see what they do at the trade deadline. Maybe they pick up Drummond. I think if they get Drummond, it's an automatic. It's a wrap. The Lakers will win it. The Lakers are just deep. I just think they're too good. They're great defensively. They lock in defensively, and offensively they could just get it. And Schroeder's kind of taking them to the next level there. Thank you guys so much for tuning into my podcast. It's been an awesome time I've spent with you guys. Hope we could spend some more time together. Hope you enjoyed it. We talked a little bit about the NBA, how I looked at the first half of the season. We talked some all-star basketball. That second schedule, we'll see how that goes. We talked Lakers, we talked Sixers, we talked everything. We tried trades. I gave you guys my awards in NBA Champions of the Year, Lakers champions. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again. Thank you for listening to GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show. Write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you. Have a great rest of your night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.